2026 British Grand Prix Race Notes. Dick's Race Notes.
Well, hey everybody, I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents on what I thought of the British Grand Prix at Silverstone this past weekend. Silverstone is one of my favorite races on the calendar because it has so much history. The crowd is always massive, and since the fans typically have at least one of their countrymen in the field, their support's just super fun to take in and experience. I thought the sprint race itself was a very entertaining race. The racing was quite aggressive, and honestly, I thought it was what sprint races should be like, although we know that a lot of the passing that took place was driven by different energy harvesting and deployment strategies, but still, it was very fun to watch. And while Joe and Sabrina have done their usual excellent jobs of covering the race, I do feel like I have to discuss the issue that only Max has had with his rear wing not fully shutting. The issue of the rear wing not fully shutting happened first in Austria during qualifying and then again at the following race at Silverstone during the actual race. And that put Max out of the race after an extremely spirited drive on his part. I think that it's important for our casual fans to understand that when a racing car is on the edge of adhesion, it's possible for a small puff of wind or the sudden loss of just maybe 100, 150 pounds of downforce to put you straight off the track and into the gravel trap. In both of those instances, Max wound up parked in a nice big gravel track, damaging the car significantly in Austria and not too badly in Silverstone. But Max is not a happy camper about this because he understands that he has been twice lucky to have this happen at a corner with a large gravel runoff to slow his car down prior to hitting anything solid. If this were to happen at a place like Baku, which is lined with concrete barriers, the crash damage to both car and possibly the driver would be immense. So I'm also wondering, why is it that Max's teammate, Isaac Hadjar, hasn't suffered a similar failure? Is it really a rear wing failure, or is it a case of Max seriously overdriving the car and just making a small mistake? Possible, but not likely. I would be the first to say that. And Red Bull is just covering for their number one driver. Or did Max's car achieve a certain degree of yaw angle in the corner that cut air off of the rear wing ever so briefly, causing it to lose downforce, and off goes Max? I don't know, but it's totally speculation on my part. But it is interesting that the second car has not had this problem. At least it hasn't had it yet. So that was my big comment, but here's some others. First of all, watching Williams and Aston Martin wallowing around at the back of the field is just getting to be almost too painful to watch. Both teams have B-spec cars due to arrive soon, but I feel for everyone on both teams that they have built such duds in the first place. It's too soon to call Ferrari a legitimate challenger to Mercedes, but they're certainly giving Mercedes something to think about. And the reliability issues at Mercedes that they keep having is just very un-Mercedes-like. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but it seems like different problems keep cropping up. My third point is that McLaren is in big trouble and need more upgrades as soon as possible. I'm hearing that they will get more upgrades in 2 weeks' time at Spa, so let's see what happens. And last but not least, there's a lot of noise being made about how some teams like Ferrari are continually bringing upgrades for their cars, with people wondering out loud how they can do it with a cost cap in place. The final accounting at the end of the season promises to be very interesting. It may be that teams like Ferrari bring very few updates during the second half of the season because they're dangerously close already to exceeding the cap. Time will tell.
Joe's Race Notes.
The British Grand Prix was odd, I have to say. The end of the race was fairly chaotic, and I don't really understand why the safety car stayed out. The FIA said it was a software glitch, but that shouldn't happen. I mean, they should have all these things verified. They should have checked that in advance. They usually do on a race weekend. So a software glitch doesn't sound awfully likely. And it seems to me it was probably more to do with confusion in race control, given the tight nature of when the car had to come in, when the lights had to go off, and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, it ruined the race. The last lap of the race. I don't like last lap dashes after safety cars. It's all a bit NASCAR, but it was a complete damp squib because we didn't even have a race. So I don't think Charles Leclerc would have won if that had not been the case. I think he would have won, in the fight towards the end. George wouldn't have got him because, he didn't have the tyres to do it in the last lap. But I don't think Charles would have won if Kimi had kept going, because Kimi was catching him at such a rate. And Charles, he admitted he didn't think he would have been able to hold off Kimi. I feel desperately sorry for Kimi because he deserved that win. He did everything right. He worked his way to the front, and it was all going fine. His strategy was good, and it looked like he had the race in the bag, and it was just a tiny thing that went wrong that completely messed him up. So that's very unfortunate, of course. And George was lucky to get as many points as he did back. So it was pretty unlucky for poor old Kimi, I have to admit. I think that the idea of George staying out at the end was a good one because he gained some places where he didn't have the tyres, and it was a big risk, But when you get into those situations, and whatever you do is right or wrong, you've got to make a split-second decision, and they did it. So in the end, it worked out for him, and he ended up second and got more points. But it wasn't really deserved, to be fair. It was largely luck, and he was outclassed by Kimi all weekend. I think the Ferraris are quick in qualifying, obviously, but they still can't really compete with the Mercs on the full pace throughout a race. So we'll see how it develops. Again, it's very circuit specific. So beyond that, McLaren was nowhere really. And although they seem to not be surprised by that just because of the nature of the circuit, Red Bull, Max did a good job, but they weren't in it really. And he went off at the end, causing that safety car for a similar reason to his accident in Austria. Now, you can say that's, as he did, that's not acceptable. But, there's only been like a week between the two events. So trying to find a solution to the problem and then creating that solution is quite difficult to do. So it's unfortunate, and I know he was upset about it, but sometimes that's the way it is. And the Formula One schedule is so brutal these days. There's no time to even breathe really between races. So I don't think it was, it wasn't good. It didn't help his situation, but I don't think it's fundamentally, you can't blame the team more than you could blame them in Austria. I mean, it's the same basic problem. So beyond that, I thought that the Racing Bulls were pretty solid. I thought Arvid Lindblad did a great job. And Liam Lawson too. I mean, obviously they are, they're pretty well matched, but it's more impressive with Lindblad because he's younger and less experienced. Alpine didn't look good. I think that was a circuit-specific issue again. It just didn't seem to be working, and normally Pierre Gasly would have done better than he did. I think beyond that, down the back, there's no real changes. I mean, people brought some updates. I think the Williams drivers seemed to be a little happier with some upgrades they had, but it didn't turn out quite how they wanted, and so they weren't really on the pace at all. But they're chipping away at it. There's been a lot of rumours about Carlos Sainz looking to go somewhere else, but we'll see. I mean, if you're Carlos, it might be a good idea to stick where you are as well to try and continue to move forward with Williams. This year's been poor. Last year was a lot better, and I think there's potential for them to bounce back over time. So I think as a whole, because it was so soon after Austria, there wasn't a lot of difference between the two races. I mean, there were lots of bits and pieces that were changed. What was super impressive, I think, was the huge crowd. I mean, 560,000 people over the 4 days. So that's an all-time record in Formula One, as long as they've been counting anyway. I do remember one in Adelaide, the last race in Adelaide, which was absolutely huge, but apparently this one beat even that. So I think we'll go on going up in numbers as time goes by. But what we don't need is messes at the end of races like we saw, and there's nobody to blame for that other than the FIA. They're paid a huge amount of money to do a job of administering the sport, and that's several races now they've done a poor job, and that shouldn't be acceptable.